Assalamu alaikum, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this session, which is part of the dimension A Safer Future. What we are going to talk about is what your child is not telling you. An extremely important aspect of our children's lives. How much do we know about our children? How much do we want to know about them? And how can we improve our lines of communication and build trust in our children? I have with me today a very diverse panel of speakers, and it is my honor to introduce them to you all. Let me begin with the lady sitting on my left, Ms. Valerie Khan. Ms. Valerie Khan has 20 years of experience in SAARC region, especially Pakistan, in the field of capacity building engineering, child protection, women's rights, and gender issues, with a strong focus on worst forms of gender-based violence such as honor crimes and acid violence. So welcome, Ms. Valerie. We're looking forward to listening to what you have to say today. Next with us today is Ms. Amara Shah. She hails from Balakot, a small town district in Mansehra, KPK. She recently completed her BS in mass communication and will be pursuing her MS in the same field. She's an avid reader, writer, and photographer. Few of her writings include Depression, a Misunderstood Phenomena in Our Society, What a Glory and What a Fall, Women Harassment, a Slap on Our Progressiveness, A Sorrowful Tale of Green Wandering Eyes. And we are looking forward to listening to your own personal experiences, Amara. So welcome to our panel. Sitting next to Ms. Amara is Ms. Sadia Khatri. She's just coming straight from the airport, lives in Karachi, is a writer and activist based in Karachi. She graduated from Mount Holyoke College, where she studied journalism and astrophysics. Upon moving back to Karachi, she helped form the feminist collective Girls at Dhabas. Her first non-fiction novel on the life and work of Agha Shahid Ali is forthcoming by Speaking Tiger in 2018. Right, Sadia, am I right? So we are looking forward to your first book.
Yes.
I hope we get invited to the book launch.
You will.
And looking forward to listening to your point of view on today's panel. Finally, we have with us Ms. Saman Shamsi. Ms. Shamsi also lives in Karachi, where she was born and educated. Her master's degree in education management from King's College, London. While in London, she was involved in the Preston Road Community Library campaign and later was named its Children's Laureate. She has remained in touch, and in 2015, the library held a Saman Shamsi Young Writers Challenge for children. She's now a primary school teacher at Karachi Grammar School, but previously was teaching O-level physics there. So what a remarkable change from O-level physics to primary school teaching. So we would look forward to listening to your views on early years, primary, and definitely the teenagers also. So a big hand for our panelists. We welcome you all. Let me give you a little context to today's discussion, ladies and gentlemen. Today's discussion is number 3 in a series of discussions. Our first panel on what your child is not telling you was held in November 2015 in Karachi, when we held the School of Tomorrow conference in Karachi. Then part 2 was again a very strong discussion that took place in November 2016 in Lahore. And today it's taking it from there to the next level, our third in this series of conversations. This session today addresses a very critical issue regarding our children. Tangible and practical outcomes derived from the discussion today might help us as a school system, you all as parents, teachers, educators, in listening to what your children are saying in reading between lines, what is it that they are not saying and yet feeling, and how can we support and help them, and how can we equip ourselves in the 21st century to be our children's friends and yet the parents that we are supposed to be, or the teachers that we are supposed to be. The discussion that was previously held revolved around the ways in which we can communicate with our children about sensitive issues like abuse. Abuse included drug abuse, sex abuse, bullying in schools. And today also we are going to touch upon the same aspects and a little more, and maybe cyberbullying might be part of our discussions. To share your point of view on, in a safer future, what is it that you think your child is not telling you? So how would you perceive this?
What is first important to acknowledge is that nobody is perfect and that there is no perfect recipe for parenting. And your title, What My Child Is Not Telling Me, is more about first, as parents and as human beings and as adults, acknowledging the fact that we are not perfect and acknowledging the fact that we need to be able to listen and realize that it's very difficult for a child to express his or her feelings or to verbalize forms of abuse or violence that they themselves do not necessarily understand, but only experience. And when you take certain forms of abuse, such as corporal punishment or sexual violence, which is what I'm focusing upon, child sexual abuse, commercial and sexual exploitation, we need to be aware of the fact that in the next century, or rather now and in the forthcoming years, this phenomenon is going to be all the more challenging due to the cyberspace, the internet environment. And we should not think that the virtual space is isolated from the real space. There is actually also an interconnection. So from our perspective, the question should be how to prevent that form of violence, how to be able to listen to the signs, if not the direct verbalization. I mean, no child is going to tell you, I've been raped. It's not how it happens. There are symptoms such as stomach aches, nightmare, not being willing to interact with that person. When a child tells you, I don't like that person, hear it out. It's important. It means something is wrong. When you also face the disclosure of an abuse, we also need to be equipped on how to answer that disclosure. And we need then to think of the way that parents in that situation need help, need support, institutional support, legal support, I would say holistic support, which is currently not existing in our country, which is overall in the world highly defective. And in the context of a school, I would first of all really congratulate you for organizing this conference. The fact of organizing this conference only means there is hope. It means we can do something. But, you know, working on developing child protection policies, training your teachers, training your children, training your parents on being able to talk about child sexual abuse, what it is, what is bad touch, good touch, what are private parts, public space, private space, all those elements are really critical, and that language, that discourse is the best way to protect your children and to prevent that. For now, I'll stop there.
All right. So you mean to say, Ms. Valerie, that we need to educate our children on a lot of things so that they start identifying, or at least they start, they have the confidence to trust and speak to an adult, right?
Yes.
My next question would be to Ms. Amara Shah, where if, you know, adult supervision, and what if it goes overboard, if parents become, there's a phenomena called hyper-parenting.
Yeah.
Parents want to know too much. Every little thing, you know, every little movement, who your child is meeting, what your child is doing, checking their school bags. snooping and sneaking around. I'm sorry, with all due apologies to parents, but
Went through hyperparenting as well. I went through many other things, but what happens that when you when you do not properly guide your child. My mother she used to look after me way too much. Today I'm a depressed person. I cannot trust anyone. Today I don't have any friends. I have the lonely teenage. Throughout, I was a lonely person. Now I am stressed. I am going through. I am a borderline personality disorder. It has developed a mean world syndrome in me. I consider that the world is syndrome. It's a cheap place. There is nothing good in this world. Everyone is going to harm you.
so how to maintain a balance would be my next question. Sadia, you
Can
want
I
to say
follow up?
something?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hi everyone. So while Amara was talking, I was thinking. So my parents were also very overprotective in that computer ki jo table hoti thi, that would be positioned in such a way so that my mother would always know what I'm doing, and she would check my bags. She still checks my bags sometimes, and then we have a fight. But what I realized was that the things that parents are often overprotective about, such as sex, such as your body, the way you present yourself, those are the things they will try to give you certain boundaries ke ye karna hai, ye nahi karna hai, but they won't talk to you about it. So there is this assumption ke theek hai, these are the rules we have decided, but this is not up for discussion. I think that's where the disconnect comes in. So if you are going to be overprotective about, oh beta, I don't want you to hang out with boys or girls, where is that negotiation you had with the child to come to that conclusion, right? You can't just give them something and ask them to agree to it, especially as we grow older, because the mind wanders and you're a teenager and you're meeting friends and all of these questions are coming to your mind. So I'm just going to talk briefly about my own experience. I was sexually abused by my cousin when I was 5 years old, and it went on for some years. I don't know how long it went on. I don't have full memory of all the encounters. I told my mother when I was 15, and it was a very difficult conversation, and we both broke down. और हम बहुत रोए. And she was really mad, but it was a complicated situation jahan pe the abuser is married to an aunt who is like a second mother to me. So in the end, Amma decided, कि अच्छा नहीं, we're just going to keep this to ourselves, and this isn't going to go anywhere, because even if it does, we knew हमारी family ऐसी है कि अगर बताया जाएगा तो backlash मेरे ऊपर आएगा, मेरी freedoms और curtail की जाएंगी और मेरे ऊपर सवाल उठाए जाएंगे, even though I was 5 at the time. And that I felt like I was being betrayed by my mother, because now we pretend like it never happened, and the man still comes to our house, and I don't interact with him, but my mother does, and she does so laughingly. And it's this like sort of, oh yes beta, we love you and we care about you, and so you must tell us everything and we are your best friend, but then when you do, I'm sorry, but we can't give you that support because of whatever social mindsets that we espouse.
As an author and as a teacher, author of children's stories, as a teacher, what would you say? How can parents build that confidence or if they do build that confidence in their children to come and share everything, then how is it possible for them to not let them down now? Now, when it comes to making hard choices,
Yes.
Parents still go with, I assume they would go with the society's pressures. लोग क्या कहेंगे, फैमिली क्या कहेगी, घर वाले क्या कहेंगे, और तुम बेटा खामोश हो जाओ, लेकिन हम कमरे में बैठ के इसको सॉर्ट आउट कर लेते हैं, बात कर लेते हैं. I would like to be bilingual because this is such a strong discussion that it needs to be bilingual for everybody to participate in it. And Miss Valerie, I hope that's okay with you, because I know that you know Urdu a little. Miss Saman?
I think it's very important from a very young age to not belittle what children say, to believe them, to try and act on what they say. A lot of times you feel that, especially if it's a 3-year-old, it can be somebody, I mean, as young as 5, it can be even younger. One has heard incidents within one's group or within the servants abusing children. The thing is, to be able to go and tell your parents at a very young age, you might not be able to articulate it even. It's important to listen to your children and to make them feel, to be able to try and articulate with them also. This concept of good parts and bad parts, I've heard parents from my generation now talk to their children that these are your private parts. If anyone does touch you here, no one has a right to do this. And this is something that we never heard from in our generation growing up.
True.
And we knew of incidents happening. We never talked about it with our parents. But you heard about things within the school or wherever it happened. Now, as a teacher, I've heard parents, I've heard my contemporaries who have children actually say that, I tell my children that they have to come and that this is not allowed, and if it happens, you must come and tell me. And I think that's very important. And it's even, this is a very big issue, but even on a smaller level, if a child is upset, when I started teaching 10, 11-year-olds, I had, boys and girls, they come into class at that age, after break, in the middle of class, they'll burst into tears. And initially I would be like, I didn't do anything, why is this child crying? Or some child would come and cry and say, Miss, he called me this. And I was like, just ignore him, And I realized that school policy also made me realize, and I also realized just by interacting with a younger age group, that you can't do that. You have to sit down with them. Why did this happen? Why did you say that? What did you do before? Did you do something? And suddenly this whole history will come, well, actually, I did this 3 days ago, so he's done this today. This happened in class 3, this happened, and this history suddenly sort of develops up. And you realize that if a child is upset or crying in class, it's not because of this one silly little thing. There's an actual history over there. And I've learned you don't belittle any little comment. You say, okay, let's sit down and talk. I'll talk to the two. You call a conference as a teacher. I'm talking as a teacher, not as a parent, because I'm not a parent. But I've realized that I have a zero tolerance for bullying in my classroom. And that's something I've learned to develop in primary school. In secondary school, the children didn't come, so some children came up and said, Miss, this is a problem, can I talk to you about it? But at a younger age, they're very, their feelings are much more on the surface. And I think you have to listen to them, and you have to intervene, and whether it's through stories, sometimes you hear from the parents that this is going on with my children, and I would read a story in class, and I would choose a thread from that story to talk about bullying, to talk about, that this is also a form of bullying, putting, telling someone that you can't talk to this person because I don't like them. That's a form of bullying. And the children sometimes actually get surprised by this because they have a very narrow concept of bullying.
True.
And I think you have to be able to talk to them at an allegorical level and at a very literal level also.
Very true. Thank you so much. And when we talk about bullying, cyberbullying is something that is happening. And with easy access to the net, the smartphones, we were talking about technology in our inaugural session when we were setting directions. Mr. Qasim, the panel that he had, a question had come from one of the students in the auditorium that was about cyberbullying and how to intervene and how to protect yourself. I have this little paper. I was just going through, doing my little research, and some cyberbullying statistics were that 25, and I'll just read it as it's available on the net. 25% of teenagers report that they have experienced repeated bullying by their cell phone or on the internet. 52% of young people report being cyberbullied. 11% of adolescents and teens report that embarrassing or damaging photographs have been taken of them without their knowledge or consent, and so on and so forth. The list is long. But there is one bullet which says 95% of teens that witnessed bullying on social media report that others like them have ignored the behavior. Now, isn't that really sad? 95% of teens have witnessed but ignored. And that is what our session is about. What is it that our children are not telling us? Are we really aware of the issues and the pressures that they face?
I think it's going to be very difficult if you're asking the current generation to monitor fully their children on the news, because at 4 years old they master those tools much better than we do. So the problem is not so much to, you don't protect a child from taking drugs because you limit the access to drugs, because you cannot control it and it's everywhere now. You protect a child when you make that child understand what is the destructive impact of drug taking, and when you empower that child to say no, being able to say no, being able to identify the danger. And I think it's interesting to see how, as adults, we would like to have very peaceful, non-discriminatory, and fair children when we, as adults, are doing exactly the opposite.
True.
The first models of violent behavior and discrimination is amongst ourselves. We bully women. I think you've had a few latest examples in your society. We kill, we rape, we harass. There is never anyone, or barely anyone, to stand with you to say no and to stop it. So we expect things from our children and our teenagers that we're ourselves not doing. To me, until and unless at a political level, with all the stakeholders, media, institutional level, we don't say first, no more violence against children, no more violence against women and girls, no more discrimination against minorities or whatsoever, until we don't take that as a priority at a societal level, don't expect it to happen within your children. They do what they reciprocate, replicate what they see and what they experience. That's
Absolutely.
number one. And the second part is that a tool can be used in a very positive manner. You should not ban those
Yes.
tools, but you should ensure that it's being used for the right purpose and give that confidence of the child to be able to speak to you. The worst can be said. What you need to give as a message is that we're going to work together to find a solution. You're not going to be judged or blamed. Mistake is part of the learning process. And remember, what this violence does to a child, the impact of those forms of violence on a child, it destroys a human personality. It breaks the psychic functioning. It gives them the impression of being dirty, guilty. It's the wrong teaching you can give for any further citizen. The best way to protect your child is to support him. But in that case, in your case, when your mother could not do anything, that's because the overall system was extremely anti-women and anti-justice for children. So the state, your schools, our families also need to take the responsibility to be able to provide support services so that when a mother says, I don't want that to happen to my child, she has the justice court, the social system, and other positive elements in her family to say, we'll be with you, and even it is your uncle, your father, your husband, or whatever, he will be the bad one. He will be the criminal, and you are the victims, or you are the survivor, and we'll stand along with you.
Shah would like to share the same
Yes,
experience. Yes, today this is the first forum I would like to share my childhood story, its experience, and Afsha was the first person with whom I actually shared. When I was 4 years old, my cousin, he was 22 years old, and he tried to cross his limits. He took me. It was Friday, and he took me, and he tried to touch me. Fortunately, I escaped from him. I actually hit him below the belt. I did not know whether he was doing the right thing or wrong thing, because he told me that he is going to. I used to play with pets, with kittens. I loved birds, so he was a close family member, and he knew my weakness, and he gave me the incentive that come, I will catch sparrows for you. He took me, and he was that I would touch here, and the sparrows would come, and I was okay, fine. And when my mother called me, she came on the terrace, and then I said, okay, my mom is calling me now, and he did not want to leave me. I hit him, and I ran away. When I told my mother that Mubashir, the name of my cousin, that he took me, she did not ask me anything further. She just called me, why did I go? And later on, when my brothers came after the Friday prayer, and then she told them, and they did not ask me what Mubashir said to me. I don't know what they got from this, that why did he take me away. My eldest brother took the gun, who was of the same age. He took the gun, and he went to their home. He was my uncle's son, my Taya's son. So he went to there, and the Mubashir, he was put behind bars for 3 days only. Actually tell them how he was touching me. They just know Mubashir took me away, but I did not tell them that there was a bad touch. What he was actually doing, this is the first forum I am telling this, and Miss Afshan was the first person I actually shared the real thing.
In our society, to talk about such things openly takes a lot of courage. And I think a lot of pain is behind it, because when you go through that pain and torture, only then you have the courage to speak about such things. Sadia, one of your comments was about educating the boys. Would you like to further talk about it? Because we consciously or unconsciously, we start talking about women, we start talking about girls.
So I think Amara also brought this up in that, you know, कि लड़के ने गलती कर दी, किसी को हाथ लगा दिया, गलती है, लड़के करते हैं. Boys do this, that's in their nature. So you as a girl should protect yourself, while he can make mistakes, but you can't make mistakes. So this hypocritical attitude towards boys are allowed to make mistakes, girls are not. And also this, I think, extends to the dimension of sex. We don't want to talk about sex when it comes to girls. We don't want to admit that girls might be sexually active. We don't want to admit that they might even be aware that there is such a thing as sex, right? So I was talking about language earlier. और अगर आप सोचें तो ये स्कूलों में भी होता है और घर में भी होता है. और मेरे लिए this is something that stood out to me in my family, because my brother, who is 8 years younger than me, he can walk around the house in his banyan, right? Or like shorts or whatever he's wearing, and it's fine. If I don't have a dupatta on and there's a man in the house, then my mother will come scream at me. Or if my bra is lying somewhere in the house, there's no one else, she'll freak out. So what's the message that's being given to me is that as a girl, these are the things that stay hidden. You don't talk about this. You don't own this. Your body does not belong to you. It is up for other people to tell you how to treat your body and how to exercise its rights. Meanwhile, for my brother, the same restrictions do not apply. So growing up, आपको क्या मैसेज मिल रहा है? आप स्कूल जाते हो, आपको टीचर्स पुलिस करते हैं कि आपका दुपट्टा बेटा सही नहीं है, लड़कों को नहीं किया जा रहा होता. So again, that message of your body does not belong to you, your body does not belong to you. And then you come to teenage years, and then parents don't want to accept that their children might be having sex, they might be dating. And I know this is hard to hear, but it's happening. It's been happening for a while. And if we're not going to talk about it, then we're going to get into the same rut of प्रॉब्लम को आइडेंटिफाई करना तो एक बात है ना कि हाँ ठीक है सेक्सुअल अब्यूज़ हो रहा है, लेकिन जब आप सेक्स के बारे में बात नहीं करेंगे तो सेक्सुअल अब्यूज़ के बारे में आप कैसे बात कर सकते हैं? एंड आई एम नॉट सेइंग टॉक अबाउट सेक्स इन द सेंस दैट you know explicitly this is what sex is, but through these ways of why are you making girls conscious of their bodies? Why are boys not told to be careful of the way they make women feel uncomfortable, by the way they look at you when you're walking on the street, by the way they पुलिस यू इवन अगर मैं चल रही हूँ, मुझे कोई रैंडम अंकल सड़क पे, उनकी जुर्रत कैसे हुई कि वो मुझे बोलते हैं बेटा आपने दुपट्टा क्यों नहीं पहना हुआ है? So this idea कि women's bodies are everybody's property, this is ingrained into men's brains, and that's what we need to challenge.
Thank you so much, Sadia. I hope the boys and girls in this hall agree to that and think about it. It's actually a lot of food for thought. So it's just opening channels of communication and opportunities for thinking. Ms. Valerie, you wanted to say something?
I just wanted to clarify one thing. Now, when we talk about child sexual abuse, we need to be clear that boys are also being abused.
Absolutely.
It's not only girls. And we also need to be clear that transgender or gender variant children are also being abused. And we also need to be clear that the perpetrators, who are largely male, are not always only males. This is also important. Female can also abuse children sexually. By complicity, I mean, those are very complex scenarios. So although, again, usually the perpetrators are largely male. But, you know, we need to be aware of those gender things. And when you talk about education, there is jargon which call it comprehensive sexual education. Now, आपको पता है कि आप गांव में जाएंगे, मैं खैबर पख्तूनख्वा का से ताल्लुकात हूँ, जब मैं कह रही हूँ मैं एक गुड स्कूल में अंदर जाऊँगी, मैं उनको कह रही हूँ मैं आपको comprehensive sexual education का दूँगी, वो सारे लोग बेहोश हो जाएगा ना, वो क्या बात कर रही है? तो मतलब इस तरीके से लाइफ स्किल्स बेस्ड एजुकेशन के थ्रू वो कॉन्सेप्ट्स कन्वे कर सकते हैं और you can devise a way to explain sexuality to very young children, to parents, to women, and to men.
Absolutely.
In a culture-sensitive manner. you will never be able to speak about it until and unless first you're not being sensitized and equipped to talk about it.
So that's very important and extremely important aspect that you need to have those skills to talk about it, and it's not just the girls, definitely the boys also. As a mother of two children myself, I feel good about the fact that I've always spoken about such stuff, not just to my daughter but to my son also, and rather more to my son, because he's the one who needs to know how to respect his immediate relationships. आपका सबसे पहला रिश्ता माँ का होता है, फिर बहन का होता है, बीवी का होता है, बेटी का होता है, और ये चार रिश्तों की इज़्ज़त करना बहुत ज़रूरी है. और ये हम अपने हाउस होल्ड से अगर इस चीज़ पे बहुत ज़्यादा अहमियत इसको देनी शुरू करें, तभी सोसाइटी में वो चेंज आ सकता है, बिकॉज इट्स फॉर ऑल ऑफ अस टू अंडरस्टैंड how important it is to respect these relationships. The driving question today for all of you, dear panelists, is with transparency as the new mantra and our shifting attitude towards secrets, ordinary everyday secrecy is now a fraught terrain for children. Do secrets help or hurt them?
Different cultures within our society. Like I see it within the school, there's a lot of peer pressures, especially at the teenage level. And when you have to, as a parent, also not have your blinders on, you have to be aware that children are experimenting, whether it's with drugs, whether it's with sex, whether it's with drink. These pressures are there. Sometimes it's your own sexuality. Children are not everyone is as comfortable with these topics. A lot of parents aren't comfortable with these topics, and they don't want to discuss it with their children. They want to just assume that they are not going to be they're going to have the same, the liberal values that the parents do or the conservative values that parents do. And children have this, they should be able to go and able to talk to their parents, but some children are very open with their parents, and they say that, you know, these children friends that I'm not part of this group anymore because they drink and I don't. And, you know, you may do what your parents are wanting you to do, but you might suffer the consequences in school, how cliques, and you might be invited to the big parties but be cut out of the smaller groups because you don't smoke. These are very serious issues, but a lot of times children feel like if I talk to my parents, I know they won't approve, but then if I talk to my parents and I do what my parents want, my friends won't approve. So I think sometimes children find these little secrets because they are trying to also figure out who they are and where they want to fit. Do they want to fit within their parents' vision of them or the friends' vision, and who are the cool kids at school? These are very big issues for teenagers.
How adults, especially boys, can be groomed to deal with girls at the university level, as harassment cases are even being reported at the age of 21 to 25. And this, I assume, is harassment from girls or of girls. So, I mean, it's both ways. So, who would like to comment on it? Yes, Valerie.
But you said it, no? Teach your son not to rape and abuse. Start from the beginning. Teach your sons not to hit, and talk about it. You know, and then as far as, you know, past 18 years old, you're dealing with adults. There is a law in Pakistan which is called anti-sexual harassment law. All right? Have those committees implemented and put in place in the universities or at workplace, and then enforce the law.
Yeah. I'll come back to the point about treatment and the way, because if in my house my father is controlling how I dress and where I go, and then my brother learns the same thing, so he learns that as a man he can control his sister in the same way. So when he's going to school, the same mindset is carrying on there with his friends, right? So that power dynamic that we encourage boys to kind of take on, I think that has to be challenged at the home setting first.
The power dynamics going on at home.
I'm not your sister, I'm not your daughter, or don't consider me, I have a daughter, so you are my daughter. No, I am someone, I am another person. So just give me a respect as I am a human being. So harassment, one of the most important thing is that when harassment occurs, men, most of the time they think the other person is woman. No, I am a person, I am a normal person. I get hurt, don't consider me your sister. No, everyone is sitting here. I openly say this. I'm not your daughter. I'm not your sister. I have 5 brothers. I have a father. I'm just a human being. I'm just a woman. So just give me respect because I'm a human being. That's all.
Absolutely. Well, there are a lot of questions coming our way. I'm quickly going to read a few. What is the right age for children to discuss how to protect them with any abuse or attempt? And this one is for Valerie or Sadia. Is it possible that the absence of life skills education contributes to parent-child communication gap and absence of any real discussion as children become adolescents? I think you have briefly touched on that. And then there was another, why aren't students being taught about the harmful effects of pornography? All the sexual violence can be traced down to pornography. So these are some questions. I can read the rest also, but briefly, if you guys can.
Pornography is very different from child sexual abuse, and I'm going to tell you something which is going to shock you probably, but frankly speaking, if your cyber online violence is only reduced to the fact of children watching pornography, you're fine. Okay? This is also a transgression process which you need to educate your children on, tell them that pornography is about commercial exploitation, it's about discrimination, it's about violence, that it's not love, but at least they are not, it's very different from a situation where, for example, you would have a girl being groomed online by someone who would then call that girl or that boy outside to have an appointment and train to attack her. This is what real cyber online violence is. Or having a child and grooming that child into taking off his clothes and performing sexual acts in front of a camera. This is happening in our country. This is happening all over the world. With internet, what is happening here can be sent to Sweden or Guatemala within a few seconds. And this is what is the most worrying. Pornography is not healthy, I agree with you, but you can deal with it. The difference is when those children are being sexually abused and exploited to generate pornographic content, that's a different story. Or when that pornographic content is being used to groom those children and put them into exploitative and abusive situations. But we need to be careful. Cyber online violence is not limited to, he watched a pornographic movie. That's more serious than that.
I want to respond to the first question. I think we always assume that there's a link between illiteracy or rural areas hain to wahan pe zyada hota hoga, and this is it's an easy, I think it's a cop out. It's an easy way to kind of talk about the problem without addressing it, because then you can talk about a community that is not present. So you're like, अच्छा rural areas का क्या करें, वहाँ पे तो बहुत बुरा है, but हम सब इस कमरे में बैठे हैं और हमारे circles में क्या हो रहा है. You have to start there, and the fact is that even in educated circles, I mean, we are examples sitting here, we've shared our story with you. It is as rampant, if not worse, because और ज़्यादा बात दबाई जाती है. So I would like to ask people to not assume that it is worse because of education or your monetary value in society. This is everywhere. It doesn't matter what background you're from.
It has nothing to do with education. A person is educated, he can be abuser. So it has nothing to do with another thing. A most important thing that how most of the time our people from what can I call them, that they are against making this making sex education as a part of syllabus. So the other day I was having a conversation with my brother and I said, yaar, your holy book is full of sex education, read there are so many things. They tell us that you have to follow this. Even one of the ayat I was going through and I read there are different interpretations, and one of the ayat I was going through and the translation was that you cannot go and knock the door at this and this time. So your holy book, Quran, tells you, gives you the sex education. Why can't you tell this to your kids, and why cannot it be the part of syllabus? So they consider that giving sex education, this is a misconception that if you are going to give sex education, that means you are going to tell the kids to go and have sex.
Yes, that's a misconception.
So we have to create awareness about that as well.
Relevant laws, child protection systems, policies, education, training, involvement of media, and enforcement of laws, legal and social assistance for the victim.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Afshan.